Hello, I'm Jane Simpson. I began the Let's Talk MND podcast after my husband Robert was diagnosed with MND and he died 10 months later. This podcast has built an MND family. We share real stories from people living with MND, those who love them, and we learn about research and care in plain English. I'm not an expert, just someone with lived experience, and together we are stronger. This podcast is proudly supported by Evercare, an assisted living brand that shares our belief in independence, dignity, and community. You can learn more about their range at evercare.com.au, or you can find them in Bunnings Warehouse stores nationally. I'm so thankful for Evercare's support of the MND community, and I really hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. Hi everybody, today we have Sarah Shuttlewood. I'll let Sarah tell you who she is because there's no point me doing it when she's sitting here right here with me. Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning, Jane. I'm very well, thank you.
Sarah, you know, we always start off saying, who is Sarah? Not what you do.
Sarah?
Who are you?
I've been stewing over this one, Jane, as I've been trying to prepare for our time together, wondering how do you answer a question like that. So I'll start from the beginning. I'm Sarah, and I'm a daughter first and foremost, and then a sister, and then a friend to many. I would like to think I'm a friend to many, and a husband and a mother.
A wife, you mean? Or are you a husband?
Oh, I'm a wife.
Okay, well, in this day and age, mate, I have to ask the question. You could be a husband.
No, I'm not a husband. I'm definitely a wife. But besides all those labels, I'm a human being that likes to be involved. I do like to be around people. I like to contribute to anything and everything. And yeah, in this sense, whatever I can do to put my brains to good use to help where other people can't, this is why I'm here.
Okay. And that's how I think I put a call out last year for people who are interested on being a guest, and you're one of the people who responded. And you have a fairly traumatic MND family story. So tell us how you became part of the community.
I am here on behalf of my family, my father who's no longer with us.
Your dad's name?
Oh, my dad, sorry. His name's Peter. And if I mention my husband, his name's Peter as well. So I'll really switch and change. I'll let you know. Okay. Yeah, nothing simple. So February last year, my dad was diagnosed with MND. After many months of strange things happening, my dad was a super active human being. He was 68 when he passed away this year in March. He was still working. His job was a very physical job. His jobs in his life have been starting on the tools as an auto electrician, into the corporate world, and then in the later years working in big screen industry. So, you know, when you go to events and there's those massive screens, trailers. Yeah, that's what he was doing. So that's quite a physically demanding job. It was probably his favourite job. He loved it, and he met so many great friends.
One of our other, Rob Taylor, who goes under the handle of Bob on Regardless, that's what he did too.
Oh, truly?
Yeah, in Queensland.
Okay. Oh, wow. Might have to have a little think about that, have a little bit more look into that one. Yeah. Anyway, so he was still doing this job. He was also doing some caretaking for a really nice house in Palm Cove, actually. And in North Queensland. Anyway, a few things started to be a bit strange. He was having trouble with his left leg. We thought it was his back. Dad thought it was his back. Went to the physio, GP physio, all the usual things that you do. Was given all the exercises to work on back strength, leg strength, etc. We'd kind of help him with that. I don't mind a bit of sport myself from time to time. So, I'd be sort of watching him do these exercises thinking, gee, that's a bit strange. It's not really working. Nothing's really getting any better. The sports physio that he ended up seeing was the one that said, I think it's time. Probably had to chat to a neurologist. Did that. that appointment was, from what I can remember, quite a few months in the making. Finally happened then in the February of last year. Yeah, he received the diagnosis. The interesting thing about our situation and where we're all located as well. So I'm in Mackay. My parents were in Cairns. So mum and dad were in Cairns. My brother and sister were also in Mackay. But none of us are from Queensland. We're all actually, I'm a New South Welshman, and so is my mum and dad. But then my brother and sister came along when we were in Victoria. So after COVID, I moved to Queensland about 20 years ago. And then mum and dad, no, my sister followed about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 now, lose track of time. And then mum and dad, after COVID, they escaped, I call it this great escape, from Victoria, and went north, went to Cairns first, because that's where mum found her, I'll call that her dream job, career woman at the age of 60. And so they were there, and then they were travelling between Mackay and Cairns every so often, given that I'm here and my kids are here, so their grandkids are here. Anyway, that continued on, and so last year the diagnosis, that happened in Cairns. So, yeah, we're still all separate. We all knew something wasn't quite right, and so when that diagnosis came, it was, it was shocking, a little bit surreal. Is that real? Is this really happening to us? We haven't had anything like this in our family. I mean, who has? And really, so it was all very new. And the worst part was sharing that news with my kids. They have such a great relationship with my dad. So when your kids say to you, is Pop going to get better? And you just have to be blatantly truthful and just say no. That was really hard going. So yeah, and having dad in Cairns is a good 8.5, 9 hour drive from Mackay. And air travel is not particularly cheap. Between Cairns and Mackay, usually paying at least a few $100s each way, and those fares are never on sale.
No. Why would they be? Yeah.
Well, correct. So there's so many pieces to this story when you think about it. So mum and dad continued to travel between Mackay and Cairns. Both my parents are fiercely independent, and to an extent, they're private people as well. So even with us kids, we don't know, and we didn't know all the ins and outs of what they do, financial situation, medical information. We know bits and pieces, but we also don't, because we've also lived apart for such a long time, most of our lives. It's a really interesting dynamic to then have this thrown on us, and all of a sudden go, wow, how do you deal with that as a family unit, and a family unit that is used to living apart, is still kind of apart, but you should be together. And then as a kid, I call myself a kid, knowing how far to involve yourself in your parents' business, that's really hard, because you respect their independence and their privacy. And also, my parents are invincible, right? My dad, he could do anything. And to then be faced with this was incredibly challenging, but we rolled with it. And then, of course, the questions are, well, what do we do? What happens next? How do we help this situation? How do we look after dad? What does that even look like? We don't really know. My parents are pretty tough, and they raised us pretty tough too. It's like, you just get on with things and you'll be right. There's no, what's the word? I don't know the word I'm trying to look for, but when we had a cold, we still went to school. It wasn't
so my mother calls that parenting through benign neglect.
That's a really good way of saying it. And
that's how we were raised, and it's how I raised my kids.
Yeah, and I'm the same. It's like, have some Codral, soldier on, you'll be fine. And when my brother and sister and mum listen to this, they will they will most likely laugh, and I'll get heaps of feedback out of this, I'm sure of it. And then of course I have the dynamic of my husband and what he thinks, and his family as well. And you have all these people around you, and they're asking questions, and the big question was always, why are your parents still in Cairns with all this going on? You guys are here, aren't you all meant to like fully come together? And to try and explain to people, that's not actually how we've operated as a family. We've always been spread all over the place, and that's okay.
Of course it is.
But to look at people when you would explain that to them, some people understood, other people would just still be looking at you in bewilderment going, no, you all need to be together. Anyway, we continued like that for a few months. And the unit that Mum and Dad live in Cairns, it has stairs and there's no lift. Increasingly, and I would say rapidly, Dad's ability to get up and down those stairs became quite limited. After diagnosis, Mum and Dad were put in touch with their MND coordinator.
Yep.
And I would ask questions about this process and who looks after Dad and how that all happens. And it was very confusing. Even like for Mum and Dad trying to deal with this stuff and navigate what happens next. And we've never been a family that's reached out to healthcare services. So we had no idea.
No education around it, yeah.
Absolutely not. And nor were we really given any of that. We had to find out things for ourselves.
Yep.
And going back on the point about not getting involved too much, my brother, sister, and I just sort of stayed on the outskirts, even though it was driving me a little bit crazy because I just wanted to get in and understand what the go was and what we did next and what the plan is. I love a plan, I love action, and we've got to get in and we've got to do it. But I had to respect Mum and Dad's space on that as well. They were navigating things, just fine in the very best way they could. And Dad wanted to do things himself as well, which was, that's important. And for, just getting on with it, that's what they did. It's like, okay, well, today my walking's a bit weird, so this is how we deal with that. And then the next day something else might happen. Like, oh, that's a bit strange, or I'm feeling this weird sensation. What do I do about that? Oh, okay, I'll be right. A lot of I'll be right. Preempting what was coming down the line and trying to understand to be prepared for that, I think, was pretty challenging and confronting as well. And very much that it'll be right mentality meant that we were always behind the eight ball, always. Yeah. And with things progressing, we say things progress rapidly. I went to a neurologist appointment with Mum and Dad. I just happened to be in Cairns, and it fell on the same day as one of the, what were they? They were like 3-month appointments or something, which is crazy in the scheme of things. 3 months is such a long time when we're talking about MND. Yeah. And I remember going into this appointment, and it was a long appointment. It was hard work. Dad was absolutely exhausted at the end of it because the tests that they would do on all your functions and your mobility, he'd be trying to beat it, like trying to outperform it. And we'd be like, there was one, I just remember him trying to push down on something. He was like going bright red. And I'm thinking, man, the guy's going to have a heart attack. He needs to stop. And anyway, we just went on, and they're, rattling out the numbers of all the indicators of different things. And I remember Dad saying something like, oh, I think this is progressing pretty quickly. And the neurologist said, no, it's not. It's pretty on par with what you'd expect. And I didn't know any different. None of us knew any different. So we just took it as it was. But in hindsight, he was progressing really quickly. Things were changing very, very quickly. So bit by bit, Dad was losing his mobility, all in the legs, the feet, the legs. The vesiculations were incredible to watch, all over his body, just this twitching. And I remember him talking about cramps in his legs, how uncomfortable that was. and when I would be with them, I would see when he would, try and get out of bed, when he was still able to do that and stand up and walk, etc. The cramps that would get to him were just incredible and so painful, so painful. Throughout all of this, mum and dad had tried to navigate the systems of they weren't eligible for NDIS because dad was too old. He was in that older age bracket. So then it became the My Aged Care process. And to this day, if somebody said to me, what does that process look like and how does it work? I couldn't tell them. I don't think mum could, or she could to a degree, but there's still so many. It's almost like it's very complex, basically.
Well, it's complex on purpose. It's like, ever made an insurance claim, they make it as complex as purpose so that you will just say, yeah, fuck it, can't be bothered.
Well, this is it. But my dad, being the person that followed the rules, this is what you do and this is what you're meant to do, he insisted on continually following and trying to follow the trail of these processes to tick the boxes, get all the things that he was supposed to get or need. Don't even know what that really was. But there was a lag in those assessments, etc., which meant things for dad's care either happened or they didn't happen. One of the most astounding things that to this day, he never got, his assessment on whether or not he was eligible for the pension, that came after he died, the outcome of that.
Yeah.
And
was he?
No, he wasn't eligible. I was like, great, thanks very much. And yet he pushed the point. He wanted to know. For him, he's like, I've worked all my life. I've worked very hard. And he absolutely has.
And I've never asked for anything in my life. And
correct.
Now I need a little bit of help. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. And he didn't want to be a burden on anybody. He especially didn't want to be a financial burden on mum when he had gone. So he was trying to get all the things sorted so that he wasn't a burden on mum and so that it didn't come at a financial cost to her when she's here on her own. So he's always thinking about everyone else. He wasn't thinking about himself. There were days when he would be in absolute agony and, he wouldn't even say anything. It wouldn't be until you'd say, are you okay? And he'd be like, oh no, this actually hurts a bit today. And it's like, how much? And it wouldn't be until you really probed him on it that he'd actually come forward with what was actually happening to him. Very stoic human being. Just the fact that the way he continued to think about everyone else was unbelievable. I should also, I'm just trying to think where else I've gone off on so many tangents here.
Well, how did you, as a family, what level of aged care was he approved?
I think he ended up getting the package. Was that level 4? Is that
That's the top, yeah.
The top one, yeah. And that wasn't until much later on. And I don't think he even accessed everything. So because the interesting thing was he was assessed in Cairns, but then all there had to be more reassessments when he came to Mackay. So the line in the sand of him exiting Cairns was when he could no longer get up and down the stairs. So for obvious reasons, he was basically trapped inside. He couldn't get out. So
as a family, how did you make that decision that he would move to Mackay, and where did he live?
It was very much Dad's decision. There was no way that we could try and force anything on him. He made that decision himself, of course, with us in the background saying, how about those stairs, and talking to mum a lot, of course, as well, raising the point that it's actually not safe anymore. What happens if there's a fire? Mum, you can't pick him up and cart him out. You can't throw him over your shoulder and cart him out of there. That's just not going to happen. So Dad it was Dad's decision. He says, when I can't do that, that's when I'm going to go to Mackay. And he was very firm on mum staying in Cairns and working. That was hard for everybody. real conflicting for mum as well, knowing, there's a perception that goes with that. What is everyone else thinking? I'm just letting my husband who's dying, I'm letting him go 800 kilometers down the highway and I'm here working. What does that look like? So that was a lot for her. Not that she ever spoke about it. Again, she's a very private person and she keeps things close to her chest. So when he came to Mackay, they're in a fortunate situation that when they left Victoria, they were able to also find something here in Mackay that was a bit more permanent. So they have a home here in Mackay that he was able to move into. Yeah, and it's a low set home, and it's actually quite good for accessibility. But none of us really thought too much about, having to get around a house in a wheelchair. I guess that was something that, that doesn't happen to us. We won't need anything like that. And Dad was like that too. Then, bit by bit, the walker came into play. Then he couldn't walk very far. And so then wheelchairs, he had to, be okay with a wheelchair. And Dad, 10 years ago, if you said to him, you need a wheelchair, he would have lost his mind. Like, it just would not have happened. He would have absolutely refused. Fast forward to, 6 months ago, whatever it was, he didn't argue the point at all because he was just so uncomfortable and he knew. Yeah. So to his credit, he took this horrible thing on in his stride. Like, we were very, very surprised at how well he took to it. And yeah, it was admirable actually how he dealt with this horrible thing. So anyway, October last year, he was in Mackay full time. Thankfully, my brother lives in their house, so there was, there's someone at home at night, but my brother works. We all work. I'm fortunate that I work from home, so we ended up without even the beauty of our family. And what really stood out for me as a family unit is we didn't have to sit down and write a roster and write a list and write a plan. It was through just knowing what needed to happen, we made it work. So my brother, he worked the early parts of the day. That was his job. So I would make sure that I got to mum and dad's when dad would normally get out of bed and be ready for a shower, so that someone was there, not to help him have a shower, but just be there, because he'd had a few falls. My brother had just to be there just in case. And we didn't say to Dad, this is, we're going to be there because you need someone there. We just did it because if we said to him, this is what we're doing, the reasons why, he would have seen that as a burden, and then he would have probably put the brakes on and said a very firm no. So we did that, and and then I would sort of time my days there with him. We'd have some breakfast together and a cup of tea and coffee, and so we made the most of it. Then my brother would come home in the afternoon and we could sort of switch out like that. My sister would drop in. She worked just nearby, so she would, she ended up being the one that come around and make him eggs for breakfast because it was soft and it was nice and he enjoyed it. Previously, he was eating muesli and yogurt. That was a favourite, but that became too hard and too scratchy and just didn't work. So yeah, between us all, we had a bit of a routine going, and every day we were on the phone to each other if we hadn't seen each other in person, as in my brother, sister and I, and mum as well. We'd be ringing her with a bit of feedback. This is how things are looking today, this is what's going on. And in amongst all that, my dad had put down the instructions or given us all the direction that we were to go on a family holiday to Japan in February this year. Yeah. That plan was made last year sometime after the diagnosis. Dad, and this is a real indicator of what my family's like, Dad thought he was coming on that trip. He was coming skiing. Anyway, fast forward to Christmas last year, and it was then that he just realised that it just would not be possible. My family had travelled to Japan before, so they knew what it was all about. They knew what skiing in Japan was all about. Everything's very tiny. It's a tricky place to travel and it's exhausting. Dad was exhausted. He'd just have a shower and he'd be exhausted towards the end there. So he made the hard choice not to come.
But he made the rest of you all go.
He did make the rest of us all go, and that was hard because that was February. and he needed full-time, I want to say care, but someone needed to be with him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it just wasn't safe and just damn lonely. He was going from bed to recliner. That's what his day entailed. So all of us felt very conflicted about that. I know I definitely did, and in my own family unit with my husband, and my husband was just about losing his mind, saying, how can we all be going and doing this? And so nearly every day I had to remind my husband that, you know what, this is Dad's choice. Yeah. It's not about any of us. It's about him, and this is what he wants us to do. Yeah. So anyway, so we did. We went off on that trip to Japan, and I tell you what, when we got back, all of us were shocked at the decline that we had seen. When I left after seeing Dad when we got back, I just said to my husband, I said, oh my God, I said, I think he's aged 10 years in 2.5 weeks. I just, this is pretty full on. Because by that stage, yeah, he definitely wasn't, we'd said you're not allowed to stand up anymore because it was just too dangerous. And he couldn't, like, as much as he tried so hard because he wanted to still kind of be able to do stuff, but it was just impossible. So his days from October through till March were very much all about waking up, getting safely to the bathroom, having a shower, and safely to the recliner. When I was around there in each morning to help him with all of that, he'd get out of the shower and he'd be in his electric wheelchair, and that was a safe spot as well. And he would, every day we'd be like, safe, and he's like, yep, safe. And then he'd get out to his recliner and he'd get there and, make a cup of tea and breakfast if he hadn't already had it, etc. And then he was set for the day. But that was a few hours, just to get the day started. And then he'd need to sleep. He was wrecked, absolutely wrecked. And then on the side of all that, he was still, so his friends would reach out and be on the phone to him a lot. And even that got exhausting for him, which was hard because his speech really deteriorated. But he was still getting calls for advice in big screen work, etc., which was pretty nice. And he was still providing bits of advice left, right and centre, which was good. And the same with the house that he was looking at in Palm Cove. So that was good. And it was really nice that people would still reach out to him. I haven't spoken a lot about the reality, something that we underestimated a lot about MND, to be honest, and it's because we just didn't know, and without experiencing it, why would we know? He was very uncomfortable, lots of pain, and I've spoken to Julie in the Lived Experience Network, MND Australia, just on the side, because I hadn't wanted to raise that in the Lived Experience Network for him because I felt bad for the people that were on the call that weren't quite at that stage, and it's so positive and amazing, amazing humans. But I said to Julie on the side, I said, nobody talks about pain. What is with that? And she said, yeah, it's a very danced around topic. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'll put that in the toolkit, bring that out another time. But
the podcast that was released this week was Todd Johnson, who's the chair of MND Vic. He has MND, and he talked quite a bit about the pain. My husband suffered shocking pain.
I listened to his and when I listened to yours, I was like, oh wow, yeah.
But some people don't. So some people don't, but some people do. So
this leans right into the research piece. Hey, the why does this happen? Who's looking into this so that we can understand it better, and people that then experience this can have some better care, and you can preempt these things and be ready for it.
So let's just, we'll save that for one sec because I want to get onto that in a second. So your dad passed in March. Was that sudden?
When you've got MND, passing is not sudden. You always know it's coming. Yeah. Hey, So Dad chose his exit, and yeah, and everyone that's a hard thing, but very early on in the piece, my parents being as organized as they are, they had all those big conversations very early on, and we were part of those big conversations because they wanted us to know what was happening, etc., and what the plan was. Dad had his lines in the sand; they were very, very clear, and he. It's interesting because as much as he stuck to it, there were some things that were crossed, and to our surprise. But when he made the decision, because that's how it works, when he made the decision of when his day would be, it was like a weight had lifted off his shoulder.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, and you could see the change. But even before that, Dad would get this really interesting look about him where it was like he was staring straight through us. And I was caught by surprise one day because I wasn't sure if he was about to get angry at me for something, but he just wasn't even, he actually wasn't even here. And I explained it to Mum, and she said, yeah, I've seen that look as well. And it's like he's thinking, he's preoccupied, he's off somewhere else. And then he'd come back and it's like, oh, that's really strange. But I noticed that look disappeared once he made the call of when he was checking out. And it sounds really strange, and anybody that does listen to this might think we're all crackers, but we coined the last 4 days together. We all spent very much together, mornings during the day, nighttime, what have you. Best thing Mum did, she got all of the old photo albums out, and they were just on the table at home. As any of us came and went, we'd just pick up the photo album, start flicking through them. There were photos in there that, like, my brother and sister hadn't seen of, like, when I was little. There's quite an age gap between us, so that generated a lot of chat, a lot of stories, and we'd sit with Dad with those photo albums. And he would reminisce over all of his old stories and adventures. He had great adventures of a young man, all over the country. He's travelled internationally in his later life. He did loads of things. And so it was actually quite nice. And then we sort of gave one of the second last days together with my kids. Oh, we're going to go and have a party at Pops. We all love food, and we all love good alcohol. And so we did. We basically had a party, and my kids said farewell. That was pretty hard. They didn't know the extent of what was. They didn't know the real details of what was happening. They're just too young, 15 and 10. How do you talk about this with that age group? So anyway, we had that party, and then the next day we had another party, and then Dad's actual exit day. We fed him oysters for breakfast, champagne, and I tell you what, out of the last couple of months, it was the fastest we've seen him get ready. It was the fastest we've seen him get from chair to wheelchair. He was watching the cameras for when the doctors arrived, and he was, I know it sounds really sick and twisted, but he was almost like he was excited. He was ready. He's like, I'm out of here. Which is really, we all had to contain ourselves because it was his moment, not ours. And then it was it. And it was just over. Weird. Over but not over. We're only a few months in, and we're just on a different path now.
It's not a long time ago, March. It's only July.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's kind of strange. My sister and I said the same thing. It's kind of like Dad's just gone away and he'll be back. And then we sort of catch ourselves and go, sometimes we think we're a bit crackers. We're like, oh, no, that's happening.
Quite normal. I still think that now. But Sarah, being Sarah, has decided not to sit on her bum and do nothing.
100%.
So you've become very heavily involved in the community. So you mentioned before the Lived Experience Network. So you're a part of that now too. Yep. And talk us through the MNDA research panel.
So you are correct. I'm not one to sit by and watch things unfold. And as I mentioned at the start about the who am I like to be involved. I like to get my teeth into things and contribute, help. I like to help. And with Dad, it was such a helpless situation. It really was. Even though when I say that, people go, no, you guys did great. You did heaps. It's like, yeah, but not enough. You feel like not enough. Anyway, throughout, at whatever stage throughout last year, I was randomly Googling, as we all do. And I'm like, where do we find stuff about this? And it was after the neurologist appointment I went to, actually, and they said they referred us to, have a look at the reference material in MND Australia. I'm like, oh, who's that? Why don't I even know about this yet? Anyway, Googling through the website, next thing you know, you see the thing that says for Lived Experience Network, clicked on the link and went, oh, it talks about people with MND, carers. I'm like, oh, I don't really fit any of those. I thought, actually, you know what? I'm just going to hit the carers thing, and I'm just going to put my little message in that says, look, I'm not really a carer in the normal sense, but we all kind of do stuff. Anyway, lo and behold, Julie's back to me, and yes, excellent, thank you. She had a bit of a chat to me, and she said, this is how it all works. Come along when you can. I'll send out information, groups that do work on things. You just accept or not accept, whatever you want to do. I'm like, okay, great. So so I've been to, ever since then, I've joined each of the Lived Experience Network meetings with all the people, and heard some fascinating stories of all the resilience, the hope, people that are so hopeful is just incredible. And there was one lady I met on the Lived Experience Network. I haven't seen her come back, and I wish I could remember her name. I'm sure I could find it. But she was at the crossroads. She had a couple of kids, adult kids, but she was fiercely independent. And she was at a real crossroad on how much to involve her adult children. And of course, I just jumped straight onto it. And I said, oh, you need to let them in. If they want to be in to help you, please do let them in. And I said, you know what? I said, even if it doesn't seem like they want to be let in, maybe they're unsure about how to break in because of your fierce independence. I said, it might be up to you to actually invite them in to help you out, etc. So anyway, that was that. And what actually led to that as well was prior to that, I thought about some fundraising. Didn't really know what I was fundraising for. I was like, well, we've got to do something. So I said to my brother and sister, hey, do you want to do some fundraising? I said, yeah, sure. Like, okay, I looked at MND Australia's website for fundraising options, event type things. How do you tap into it? That looked a little bit more tricky. Then, of course, Fight MND. We know they're fantastic at fundraising. So there was a move for 27 days or something in September.
Yeah.
So my brother, sister, and I tapped into that. Anyway, we so we learned a bit through that process as well, and that then helped me understand more about Fight MND and MND Australia and what the difference the two bring to the community. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, so then I thought, I think MND Australia is where I'm keen to gear into. So that's where the Lived Experience Network came into it. And then when they put a call out for applications to be part of the research committee, I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. And throughout this whole ordeal, I'd heard so much about cure, the focus on cure, and all I could think of was, we don't have time for that right now. That's such a long game. Yet we need it, sure, but that is so far away currently. It's what people need now is researching how to look after themselves, look after their family. Let's be honest, MND touches everybody. My dad had it. My immediate family were impacted by it, but also our friend network, because they've, traveled along with us throughout this whole situation. And I've got, a couple of friends, friends of mine turned up to my dad's funeral and they said, we kind of feel a bit bad, but for being here, because it's your dad, we didn't actually really know your dad that well, or they might have met him a couple of times a few years ago or whatever. But it's kind of like closure for them to coming to the funeral, because they've travelled along with this.
Yeah, but not only that, they're there to support you.
Yeah, and that was an interesting thing for friend networks as well. Some people would be like, we just don't know what to say. So I don't say anything. Just carry on. Just do what we do. And
just cook me a casserole. Yeah.
Well, some friends, it was more like, where's the champagne? Hurry up, we need some champagne. Let's go have a party. It's like, okay. Gosh, I don't even know how we got on that part. Oh, that's right, the research committee. So in amongst all of that, I put in the application to join the research committee. Didn't really think. I thought, who am I in the scheme of things? I'm not a professor. I'm not a doctor. Yeah, I'm a professional. I've got a couple of degrees, but not in anything to do with this. Anyway, so I just threw my hat in the ring. Thought I'd see where it'd take me. Next thing you know, I've got a time set up with the committee chair and deputy chair to have a chat. And so we did, and we had quite a nice chat, to be honest. It's fairly free flowing. And then fast forward a couple more weeks, and I get the email to say we'd love to have you as part of the committee. And when I saw all the names and all the letters and things that went with those names on that committee, I thought, far out, who the heck am I in this place?
Yeah, did you feel stupid amongst all them?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And then I just had to really, so there's been a couple of research committee meetings, and the big thing, a passion point, is strategy. Like anyone that says, oh, we've got to make a strategy, love it. Love getting people together and their ideas and watching them all come to fruition and then watching it put into place. Absolutely love it. So, of course, when they've said, oh, one of the first things we need to do is develop our research strategy, I thought, oh, this is gold.
Yeah,
this is
me.
so good. Yeah. Anyway, a few meetings in, etc. And thankfully on the side, some people in the committee have, messaged me and said, hey, this is really good. Please don't be daunted by this room full of, professors, etc. And you're exactly right. And they're a lovely group of people. They are amazing. I admire their brains. They're such big brains. But you know what? They need a real person in the mix.
Amen, sister.
And so I've really grabbed onto that and had to remind myself, you know what? I've got nothing to lose by putting what I think on the table here. It's not, I don't have to mind my P's and Q's, so to speak. I can actually come in and really share what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing. And it's been really encouraged and welcomed. And the really good thing about it is there is such a focus on that care piece. And Claire at MND Australia is doing a fabulous job at pushing that. It is so good to see. Yeah. So I'm really pleased to be able to have this opportunity to contribute.
I was pleased to see your name on the list, and I think, care is where we have to focus. Care, that's my passion point too.
Yeah,
Caring.
Big time. Yep, definitely. And it's caring for those with MND and their family. All of it. It's one big network of people that need some support, because it's, we hear how people say how awful MND is. It is just horrible to watch someone die from MND.
I'm so grateful for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope that whatever I've said today, someone out there that listens can take something from it. I don't know. I hope that if there's any kids of parents with MND out there that listen to this, that there's some little nuggets of gold they can grab onto and run with, and bring into their own family network. If I was able to go back to this time 12 months ago, I would have been a whole lot more bossy with my parents and gotten right in. And I would have said to my dad, forget trying to navigate these processes. You don't have time. Come and enjoy what you have left, because sitting here trying to navigate these processes is definitely not it. And I would definitely, all the people that say they go on these holidays and things, best idea ever. Absolutely do it.
Do it early.
And do it early. Do not hesitate. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you and I will be seeing each other on screens a lot, so we already have.
Yeah.
We'll continue. I understand it's early in the process, the grieving process for you guys, so I'm really grateful that you spoke to me, to us, and it's not uncommon that once people listen to an episode, they reach out to me and say, "Oh, can I please talk to Sarah? Or can I please talk to whomever?"
Oh,
So
wow, that's amazing.
I'll be plugging you in.
Yeah. Look, I'm here to talk to anyone, anytime, any like ask me anything. I don't mind, because that's the whole point of this, right? And any help that
Correct.
I can provide, then absolutely, I'm here for it.
Yeah, the core is community, and that's why
Yeah,
we're here.
absolutely.
Thank you, Sarah, so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can message me on the Let's Talk MND Facebook or Instagram pages, or Let's Talk MND5@gmail.com. The information on this podcast is not medical advice, and the music you hear is by a much-loved member of our family, John Hanley. Once again, thanks to Evercare for sponsoring this podcast and supporting Let's Talk MND. Their commitment to care and community helps make meaningful conversations like today's possible. If you'd like to get in touch, you can message me on the Let's Talk MND Facebook or Instagram pages, or Let's Talk MND5@gmail.com. The information on this podcast is not medical advice, and the music you hear is by a much-loved member of our family, John Hanley. Once again, thanks to Evercare for sponsoring this podcast and supporting Let's Talk MND. Their commitment to care and community helps make meaningful conversations like today's possible.